Welcome to this video. Today we're going to be installing coilovers, a budget set of coilovers, on our Mazda MX-5 NA8 Miata. It's this one here behind us. It's affectionately known as Ronin. We're going to be taking a look at what is contained in the FK Automotive Ak Street kit, as well as what is entailed when it comes to installing it on the vehicle. So let's get cracking. Okay, so the first thing we've done is we've brought the car in and parked it on a nice level surface. The garage floor is nice and level here. And then we measured the height of the vehicle through the wheel centers to the arch. I've got 630 millimeters here, and I've made a note of all of these. Got a nice little grid. This is going to give us an idea of how much the vehicle has been lowered by, and it's also going to help us set up the corner heights so that we can get a nice level stance and so that we can get a nice balance. If we lower it by the same amount in each corner, then it should be relatively nicely balanced left to right and front to back.
Let's take a look at the FK Automotive coilover kit. These are the fronts. Now, when it arrived in that box over there, which isn't the best packaging, in all honesty. As a result, the packaging broke a bit and we've lost some of the top nuts and we've lost some of the washers. Now, we've got some replacement washers there. That's not the end of the world. It's a little bit of hardware. These nuts we can just grab from the car itself. Alright, so nicely galvanized, powder coated springs. They don't seem too bad. This set does not have top hats. And I must add that this is a Mazda MX-5 NB set, so it is for second generation. The thing is, this chassis is shared between the NA and the NB, so we can get away with it if we use a set of these. Now, these are NB top shock mounts, and apparently that will help us, but we are going to have to use some of the hardware for either side because Mazda no longer stocks those bushes and rubbers. So that will go over the top there with a couple of spaces on it and work like such, of course, with a spring in between. They have the necessary mounting points for our brake lines and hoses, nice aluminium collars. You get the two spanners for locking them as well in there. This one will slot right over there. Does come with the bump stops. That's at least a bit of a bonus. These are the rears, much the same, nothing over the top. Now that's the thing, these are only height adjustable. There is no damper adjustment and there is no sort of rebound adjustment, nothing of the sorts on these. Very simplistic. It's a lowering kit coilover system. It is really entry level, but this set came in under 5,000 Rand landed, and that's really not bad money. I don't use Ronin as a daily. It is a little bit of a show car and a goof around car. I have the NB, which is where I got the VIN number for that, and that one I use as a daily, and that's pretty much a stock standard one. So I'm not too phased with these not being high-end ISCs or BCs or Tanes or something of the sorts. I'm quite okay with these. All right, next thing up is to get the jack and everything in under this one and get her off the ground. Next up, we're going to need to remove a couple of bolts here. So we've got the anti-roll bar over here that we're going to have to undo that bolt over there. We're going to have to take a little bit of the tension off of this. Although we've got both wheels up in the air, that may not be under as much tension as we think at this current point in time. Then we're going to need to compress the spring. So we've got some spring compressors, thanks Benny for that, and we're going to compress these. We're going to undo the bolt down here at the bottom, and then we are going to need to undo this bolt here. So that bolt is going to get in the way over here, this one that holds on the anti-roll bar, this bushing over there. We're going to have to undo that bolt as well and just let it all sink down so that we can get this out of the way and get this shock out. All right, so let's get the anti-roll bar off first. not pretty, but it works. Now let's try and crack that one. It's going to be a little more challenging. As expected, it's catching just over there on the inside. So, but that one seems threaded, so we'll just get that one off quick. 17? No, not so lucky. Bring me a 14. Bring me a 12. Look at that. Can we now get this arm bolt out? Let's see. Boom, Robert's your mother's brother. Yeah, I think that lives there now. That's okay, it's not getting in the way. Alright, there we go. A-arm is loose and jammed on our coil spring compressor, which seems to be doing what it needs to do. All right. Seeing as we don't have that 21 to compress this nicely, we are going to have rather a bit of a challenge to get this down low enough. Just check what we're hooking on here. It's a brake line. Nothing much. Dumbass. Alright. 10 more. Although it looks like it's probably going to be... crap on a stick, man. Which drunk German designed this? Which drunk German put that in the way? Alright. Here's a tip. Remove the brake line before you try and do this. Not entirely, but just get the damn thing out of the way. Alright, so there we go. Shock is kind of loose and we've got a bit of tension on it there. It is not shooting out. You can see in there we are nice and loose. A-arm is moving sort of kind of almost out of the way. ARB gets in the way a little bit. But once we loosen the top, we should be able to get things loosen out. So let's get the bonnet open. All right, so it is. I reckon let's get this air pipe out of the way, because then we can get to that nut over there quite nicely. And we look like, well, like this one's hand tight. Well done. That's okay. Says I'm scrounging around for that 10, which is actually still attached to our socket, and really not the end of the world. All right, get that undone with a star screwdriver. I'll get in there now. I get the right through. Marvelous. Don't judge my screws. It's a temporary fix. Get off there. There we go. Lovely. Thank you. Can I get a tune out of this thing? It's good coffee. The plastic cover, really not the end of the world. We're going to be loosening this top shock. So apparently the fronts are the more difficult of the two. Place those one side, we're not going to lose them. Okay. So here's hoping that this faff and this poke and this prod is going to be successful. So there we go. Boom, we're loose. Oh, oh. All right. Now I can actually get this. Unfortunately, I don't have a vise on this bench, so I'm just going to have to do these by hand. Light, you died. Go home. Tighten these up and release this top shock mount. So let's clean up the workbench. We're going to be jabbering that thing over here. All right, so that wasn't too difficult now. Just a reminder, we undid the anti-roll bar bolt. We undid the brake line. We undid the bottom bolt that holds the bottom of the shock in. With those loosened out of the way, this can actually drop down considerably lower, but you need it to drop even further, so we took out this A-arm bolt. That A-arm bolt needed us to remove the bolt that holds on the bushing for the anti-roll bar, stabilizer bar for our American friends. So that bolt's just sitting there, it can live there for the moment. And then we undid the top shock, and Robert's your mother's brother. Cooey! Alright, let's pop these one side, all my faff and paraphernalia. Let's get these out of the way. These are fronts, these are rears. Sit, stay, good coilover. Okay, so we've got some bushes in between here on either side there. We are going to loosen that up, but first we need to compress the spring. So let's take a look that our NB top shock mounts do actually fit. In from the other side, yep, Robert's your mother's brother. Now be warned that this is under a rather large amount of pressure and tension, these springs. Just undoing this nut over here is going to be dire effing bollical.
Later.
Remove this plastic cap. And there we go. Oh, this could suck. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Woo. Okay. So yeah, missing one of those, two of those, and a whole host of washers. Okay, well that kind of works. And then that. Yeah, not loving it. I mean, that is not beautifully centered. That's just going to change caster and camber no matter what I do here. Do we just use the NA top shocks? Sacrifice a little bit of height? Frankly, I think we do. So clearly I would need all the other bits and pieces from the NB top shock, including the bushes and that, to make this work. Well, let's see. Yeah, you see, that'll only fit over there. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, then we'll bump. That makes a lot more sense. NB top shocks. Which drunk German came up with that idea? Well, let's see about this. So that whole top shock arrangement, I'm needing a bit of a visual description as to who, what, all is needed for that. Replacing the lower shock bolt as soon as I can find the hole. There we go, we're through there. Awesome class. And that washer just falling on there. Let's get that in there. Aha! Success. Let's just place this bracket here. So yeah, you can see that it is made to fit the chassis, but of course there was a little bit of difference up top. Friggin' 10. Alright, so there we go. You can see what has happened here. We've got everything back in place. We've got the A-arm in, we have the anti-roll bar, that's back in, brake line is back on, and of course the bolt that's holding the strut and the shock down at the bottom. Alright, now we take a look here. This is the problem. That's not ideal. That is way too much droop. That can see this coming out of its perch around a corner. Not ideal. So yeah, bump stops are floating around a little bit here. Are they? No, that's about as far as that one can go. That little washer can slide all the way down to the bottom though. It is capable of doing that. Alright, so when this goes up, yeah, it should ideally seat. But this is also on its lowest setting. So, if we do take that up, I can run that up to the point where it seats rather nicely. Essentially, I believe that would be a form of preload, despite the fact that you don't have a helper spring. How much that is lower, I don't know, your guess is as good as mine. So those are just locking collars. Technically that should be in. That's still going to rattle like a skeleton having a wank in a biscuit tin. And let's just nip it until it is rather nice and snug. There we go. There we go, there's no activity and movement there. I'm not going to lock those down just yet. But now the problem is I can't lower this car just yet. It is still on the rest of the stands, and I'm a little concerned about that top nut on the other shocks, the ones that are missing. But that is in. It is using the stock NA top shock. Let's see, I think once it's in and we have it down, we'll be able to assess. These may end up coming in and out a few times. Not the end of the world, not overly difficult. These little shits out. Yeah. Super successful. It is 22 years old. Blah. Alright, got to remove this shield. This is a shield for the tank, or at least for the filler cap. Oh, there's always that one stubborn nut, little bolt. Right, there we go, all 4 of those loose. This plate can now come out of the way, and we can sort of kind of almost, let's put this with the rest, we can sort of kind of almost get to what we need to there. Righto, let's take a look at what we've got. Okay, so we've got this lower one over here, and as far as I know, you can pretty much get away with just undoing that one and loosening the top, sliding it out, sliding it back in. As easy as that. Let's see if it is that easy. This is of course internet stuffs. Persuasions. Handle. That's out. So, managed to get that last nut off. Helps if you turn it the right way as well. Yeah. Okay, so and there's the shock. That's out. So just had to push down on this quite a bit. Just sort of strain these bushes a little bit. Once that bottom one was out, get it past this tower over here, this upright, and then came out relatively easy. So it's all in one piece there. Didn't need to be compressed, although compressing would have helped get it out. Didn't need to be compressed in order to get it out, but we do need to compress it now so that we can get this top hat off, because we need to reuse this one. So the rear top hats do need to be reused. Let's get those compressors off there and get them onto this one. All right, this is where we're at. Managed to get the rear shock out and the top shock off, but the project is going to halt here. Unfortunately, in the packaging, or in the shipping of the package, we lost 2 of these. And these are now the nuts that go on the top of the shock absorber here, and they're a non-metric thread. So the metric thread as found on the Mazda MX-5 does not quite fit there. That goes there and then too tight. It's too coarse a thread. Difficult to see here on the camera, but yeah, too coarse a thread. All right, so I'm needing one as a bit of an example so that I can go and get another 2 of those. So the project's going to halt here. Let me just we'll pick up again tomorrow once we've gone out and replaced the hardware. Here's just a little bit of a tip for getting the top shock off, especially if you don't have a vise. Leave the whole shock together, and before you remove it, use these 2 pins over here, and with it inserted from the underside, leave those bolts on. So just crack that nut. Don't take it all the way off. Of course it is under tension, but just crack that nut so that it is a little bit loose. I actually had to place this one back in and redo those just to crack that nut because I don't have a vise to hold the whole shock absorber and the strut assembly in place and then crack it. So I had to place it back in, crack it, and then take it off and then loosen it. And that came out relatively easy. It is still compressed over there, but this is where we're going to sit. It does look like we are going to be doing the same as what we did in the front. These bump stops look very much the same as the fronts. And it looks like we may just be sitting with, possibly getting rid of those. Wiggling that one through there. And running this top shock mount, which is nicely slotted, and that's why you can use it to crack the nut. you can brace it on that. And then naturally running the perches, and as you can see, these are going to run all the way to the top there. I want to see how this is going to work. I'm not quite able to sort of reverse engineer it in my head just yet. I'm going to have to see how this pans out. So that's pretty much where we're left for the day, of course. Once we know and we have all the hardware we need, the second side, the driver's side for us, is going to run a lot smoother and a lot quicker. And here we go, day 2. Ran out this morning, a Monday morning, and managed to get the nuts that are needed. So now we can go and do up what we need to do up here. Had a little bit of a think about it. I didn't do nearly enough research, and I'm wondering now if these top shocks shouldn't actually be the new ones that were acquired. Okay, so here we go. Let's button it up. Let's get it back into the car. Okay, so that does seem rather snug on there. That's not going anywhere, that's just activating the shock. Alright, here we go, let's pop this bad boy back in. Okay, so I did place a couple of these bolts back in just so that overnight I remember where they go. I know it's not rocket science, but you've got 1,000,001 different things on your mind. Sometimes these little facts can elude you. Okay, so that's in there. I do believe we should be able to screw this down a little bit here and get a little bit of shock compression wiggle in there. That helps if it was seated properly. Need a little bit of coaxing. Where's persuasion? I don't want to hurt the threads on it, but a couple of gentle taps help it locate. Alright, I want you to take a look there. Take a look at the gap between the collar and the drive shaft. Now, while that shouldn't move too much, there is a little bit. Let me screw this a little further down. Yeah, no, you're not supposed to be able to do that. Okay, so it does clear there. And even if there is a little bit of movement, it'll clear. But now, is it going to foul on the coil spring if we drop this like super low? Which probably is not a great idea to start with. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's catching on that CV there, that's a rotating item. So, yeah, doesn't look like we're going to be able to use the entire scope and range. Yeah, it's definitely going to catch on the shock. There we go, that's the trouble there. So, looks like we're going to be running a bit high in the rear for now. This is our ARB. Yeah, it's going to require a little bit of canoodling, manhandling. All right, let's put the top ones in first. Okay, this is a no glove maneuver, this, because you really need to be really cautious and just feel it there. And surprisingly enough, that went pretty easy. There's a little cramp there, I suppose. Yeah, you could undo these hoses here, give yourself a little bit of room, but those are the fuel tank filler breathers. Can they stay in place? 17. Give me 14. Put it in the right end, you dumbass. like to take this opportunity to thank my mother for giving me tiny hands. So the other side is going to be considerably easier. We tackle the two hardest ones, a front and the left-hand side, passenger side if you're South African, and driver side if you're just about everywhere else in the world. It's nice and tight. Alright, I'm just going to, now with a little bit of leverage, or with everything being held in place, I'm going to nip up that top bolt on the shock itself. There we go, happy with that. Once again, no torque wrench, turn it until it's stripped and then quarter turn back. Surprisingly enough, a lot easier than I thought. Alright, over to the table. And here we are. We've got everything buttoned down, the wheels back on, and then we lowered the vehicle, so low in fact that our trolley jack got jammed underneath. So we're sitting about midway on the rears, and that's not a terrible stance over there, but I would still like to lift it. The front, however, way too low. We're going to catch all over the place. I haven't rolled the arches or anything of the sorts. And the wheels that we're going to fit have a considerably more proud offset, which means that they're definitely going to catch whether we turn or not. I haven't driven it yet. This hasn't really settled, so it may even go a little bit lower. The thing is, we may be catching on some of the suspension componentry being this low. I wouldn't advise it, but this is the lowest that the front can go. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit now and we're just going to play a little bit with the ride height settings, but that's it. It is installed. It seems to be working. I suppose a test drive will reveal that. And now it's just for the final little adjustments. So, thank you very much for joining us. I hope this was a little insightful as I fumbled my way through the first time installing a coilover suspension on a Mazda MX-5.